What's up, y'all? Welcome back out to the bench in the backyard. Today we're going to be doing some work on this Hollywood Juniper. We're going to come in and excavate these roots a little bit, see where they are, and hopefully they're not super deep. I mean, they've been in this pond basket for a little bit, and hopefully we can get them down into this little drum pot that I just picked up at Winter Silhouette this past year. And yeah, so we're gonna come in here. Let me grab my wire cutters. We'll come in here, snip this wire that's holding them in. Oh, I got two of them down there. Awesome. That's actually really nice. So we didn't pot it too deep this past year, so we're going to come in here, clean some of this out, and see if we can't fit it down into that little tiny pot. We should be pretty good. We don't want to take all of this dirt out all at once. We are going to do it in stages, so we'll do it now this time. Get most of the stuff around the outside, then we'll come and take out the inside of it in a year or so. Well, a couple of years or so. We also need to take off these. We're not going to take them off the whole thing, but I do have these two. Let's see how deep it'll go. If we bend them right there. Yeah. So if we just come in here and take them off where I just bent them. Not like that. And we should sit right in there. Make sure we get off all of these weeds. As much as we can. Grab our root rake, and we're going to just scrape out so that we can start developing that radial root spread. I like that. And we're going to come in here and any of these bigger roots, I'm going to go ahead and trim back. We've got this one growing up up top. I'm not going to use that in the design. And then we'll just come in, flatten them up on the bottom. So we should be pretty good there. As you can see, I had a branch here die off, a branch back here die off, and that's it. I don't know whether that was I tried to move them a little too much or what. Actually, I had this one die off too. A little tiny one came from, I think, right there. But yeah, it's not too bad. We throw this over here so we can just sit down for a minute. And we're going to get this ready to... Alright, so I've got my middle screen in already. And I've thrown some wires up and in. Just have to make sure I remember... or figure out which ones are which. So these two are going to go together. These two go together. These two go together. And these two go together. That way I can get it nice and pulled in. And we'll just take these little, I think they're 1mm wires. All right, so there we have that, and then on the bottom you can see these are each tied together. That way I know which ones go where. So when I come in, we'll just take a little bit of soil, mound it up in the bottom. And then, you have to decide. I think we'll do it that as the front, just because the drips on this are the most even. And so the front of our tree is about right there. So we want, with this little mound up right here, we're going to take this and push down as hard as we can. And we're going to come across up under this big root. I don't want to put any wire scars on it. Come across to right there. We're not going to tighten this up yet. We're going to wait until we get all of our wires. And then when we're doing this, we want to make sure that we're pulling up and then twisting. And each time we do, we need to readjust down to the bottom, or that's going to happen and you're going to twist it apart. Next one we're going to do, we're going to grab these and tighten it down as much as we can just with our hand. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab the junction, we're going to pull out and twist. Pull out and break it. We'll just come over, switch up wires a little bit. Oh, now we're going. I seem to have misplaced my wire cutters again. Oh, never mind, I found them. About right. Come in, cut off the last coil or so of wire, making sure we still have a good bit. Same thing here. And then over here. So we're nice and steady in the pot. And then all we're going to do is we're going to take our chopstick and just push down and trying to find any air pockets that we find. So if you see you're pushing in and the soil just seems to disappear, because you're pushing into a void space down there. You want to make sure you get rid of all of those void spaces or you're going to kill off your roots. Because if they're not touching the soil, you know, with the water and the nutrients and all of that that they're getting, that's all coming from down here. And if they're not touching the soil, they're just hanging out in a space of air. You're going to kill off those roots because they just don't have that balance of water and oxygen. They have plenty of oxygen, but they don't have any water. And that'll kill off your roots. Just like not getting any oxygen down in there will too. So if you've got a pot or a tree that's root bound in the pot, you can't percolate any of that air, that oxygen down in there, then you're going to kill off those roots also. So you need to be able to get water and air down into these roots. Which, if you look at a tree out in nature, people think, oh, trees, they have just as much down below as they do up above. But really, if you, I mean, we saw it around here during the hurricane. Trees would just pull up out of the ground because the ground gets saturated with water, and they're only in the top 2 to 3, maybe 4 feet of soil. And when you're talking about a 40, 50, 60 foot tree getting blown around in the wind, if that top 3 or 4 feet of soil gets waterlogged and starts to shift on you, I mean, that tree will just come toppling over. So yeah, they don't grow down that deep because mean, there's just no oxygen down there. So the roots die off to go that way, and if they die off that are gone that way, then you're not going to have any roots that way. So you want to make sure you're filling up all of those void spaces. So if you find a spot and the chopstick is pretty easy to go in, and you see your bonsai soil starting to disappear, then you know you found a void space and you need to sit there and fill it. If you run out of soil, come in with a little bit more and start working that spot again. When it's full, you'll know you just won't be able to push down as far as you have been. And make sure you're coming at it from different directions, changing up the angle of your chopstick. Where the roots are on this one, you don't really have to worry about it so much. Straight down, the root ball was about like that. So around this outside, I don't have to worry as much. And we'll go around the outside edge just to make sure that we're pushing some of that up underneath the root ball. But for the most part, I'm coming in about an inch away from the edge and going in towards where the base of the tree would be if it was all the way down at the bottom. Again, changing up our angle of our chopstick just to make sure that we're not missing any spot. And here I found a spot that as I push, the soil just seems to be going down into a hole. And by keeping my hand right here, I know I'm not pushing it out of the top of the pot. So I do know that this is where it needs to be going in. And as you see, I mean, I can fit my whole finger down in there. We'll add a little bit more soil. And then start hitting that hole again. If you ever have any roots that are up above the soil like this, what I like to do is I'll take my finger and put it on top of the root and then just chopstick down up underneath it, and it'll kind of sink that root down in the soil. As you can see, that's already a little bit better. Especially if it's on something like that where it's got a bunch of little fine feeder roots coming off of it. I'll take that, put a little bit of soil on top of it. Just always making sure to keep my finger on top of that root so that it pushes farther down in. And then we come back over with a little bit more soil. Same thing over here. A little bit more soil. And as we come into the top of this ball, we want to still push some of that that pumice and lava and akadama into the top of the root ball where there's still a little bit of organic soil left, just because it'll help with the drainage, as well as making sure that there's a bit more oxygen up in the top of this root ball. So even though there's dirt there and we know that that it's in contact with those roots, we still want to get some of this good inorganic soil, or inorganic substrate, the rocks and the akadama. I mean, akadama is technically organic. It's fired clay. And it will break down over time. You need, given enough time, the pumice and the lava rock will break down too, but that's generally not going to be something we have to worry about. And if we have any like just little growing root tips, we'll push them down. If they don't push down, we'll just trim them off. And so there's that. So our front is going to be about right there. So we need to adjust these a little bit. I'm actually going to come in because we guy wired this branch back down here to this junction. I'm going to go ahead and take that wire off. It springs back out a little bit, so we might have to do that again. Or might be able to come back in here where we've got our, because what we want to do with this, kind of split this top, so we'll have and this one's looking good as far as the wire goes. None of it is biting in yet. I'm not getting any bulging really up here where the raffia is. Again, if we go right here, we want to bend it down and in, and then come around. And we're just going to clean up our little dead areas. There and down here. So I've got a little stub down here that I might keep for deadwood. Plus it's got a fairly heavy anchor wire on it, so I don't really want to take that off because I don't know. It comes up, I mean, it goes all the way up to this one, so it should be fine to take off. I believe. Yeah, that's the only 4mm I've got on this one right here. So yeah, it comes, actually that one comes all the way from up here down. So that one should be okay to take off. But it does have a smaller gauge. Oh, no, that's the one for this. So yeah, we can, nope, we're gonna have to leave it because that's the smaller gauge wire, this one right here, which we can take off right here. But we're gonna have to leave it on this little stub for now because that's what's holding this, or what's counterbalancing that wire right here. So if we come over like this, and down, we could actually bring that up like that. And then this part right here is going to get turned into a deadwood feature in the future. Well, it's already a deadwood feature. Hopefully it'll survive enough that I can get a decent little small gin out of it. I like that. Dogs. Gosh. Sorry, the dogs decided they had to bark at the mailman. And then this, we want this top layer to be about even with the top of the pot. But I've got some parts that are growing down. We can get rid of. Just clean up the bottom of this pad, flatten that out a bit. Same thing up here. Take off anything that's growing straight up. All the inside of the curve. So now we've kind of flattened out those pads. Right there. bit so you can actually see right here. So we flattened out the bottom of this pad and this pad, and then swung these two branches right there up and over the top. And so we're just now starting to get into refinement on this tree. Trying not to rip and tear too much. But we want this drastic bend right there. We may still need to now we're going to do the same thing up here in the canopy, or this canopy I should say. So right there, down here we need to go flatten out right there, and then we're going to trim off any downward growing branches. And anything that's growing straight up. This one, I've got one straight down here. And this over here is not wired. Take off a juniper berry, put it in the dirt. Who knows? It might grow. Might have another juniper. And then this last part right up here. This we want to start out this way and then come back in down like that. That way when you're looking straight on at the tree, you can still see this trunk in between these two sections. And this one we'll bring down around over and then this back here to kind of give us a little bit of depth. And now, just like with every other section, we'll come back in here. Anything growing down, anything growing in a crotch, perfect. Now we're going to put our guide back on. Same thing as before. And come back up here. And that one's not long enough. And just to kind of anchor it in there, come back in. This side. And come in a little bit. About like that. So we've got step, 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 step. Everything's kind of flat, or at least as flat as we can get it for right now. I don't want to cut too much off of it. I don't want to finagle it around too much. But that should be good. One last little spin around. And I'm going to water this in real good, put it back out in the greenhouse, and we will check back in on it in a month or so. When I move everything back out to the bench from the greenhouse, we'll do a little how did everything do over the winter show. See how many I lost. Hint, it's not that very many. It's a branch here and there. I've got one that might not make it. It lost quite a bit of branches. It was that cascade that I did towards the end of the fall, or middle of fall I should say. The juniper, it's lost 2 or 3 branches. This one lost like 3 little tiny branches, but that is it. So the last little spin around, with that being the front. I need to get a backdrop so y'all can see things a little bit better. Maybe that helps. But yeah. So until the next time I see y'all out at the bench in the backyard, just remember to grow them big, but keep them small.